Though it feels like the last month has lasted roughly 6 years, this channel did recently cover the noble and plucky 35-ton Jenner in all of its glory. One of those loose ends briefly touched upon was the mech's contact with the clans, or troubling lack thereof, until much later in the timeline due to the timing of the mech's original development and production. This led to questions concerning the origins of the curiously similar Jenner 2C when it was first spotted among the invading clan forces during Operation Revival. Some assumed that, like the other 2C second-line clan battlemechs, the Jenner 2C must have been the result of prototype Jenners, which actually did travel out of the inner sphere with Kerensky's SLDF Exodus fleet. That assumption proved to be inaccurate, as the 2C, along with its creators, took a different path. Join us today as we look at our little friend, the Jenner 2C. We'll hammer out the origins, poke around under the hood, kick the feet, and hopefully you'll stick around for the nonsense. The aerial view skewed his perception, especially with the size of the grass and trees. He almost wondered if they were watching elementals fight in power armor, until a herd of striped deer-like creatures bounded into a small clearing and then away just as swiftly, the grass towering over their heads. Abruptly, the scene shifted, and he whistled at the sheer scale of the trees. I've never seen any so tall. Star Captain Rue's Spirit Cat's Jenner 2C bounded into the display on jets of plasma, missiles slashing at the incubus. Explosions walked up and down the light mech, tearing chunks away that sent armor scything through the grass like giant lawnmowers. Petter winced, fingers slowly curling until his balled fists ached with tension. You cannot lose this, Kila. We need this too much. Deep Currents, Empire Alone, by Randall N. Bills. Clan Novacat was always a bit of an odd duck insofar as clans went. From their earliest days, the Novacats did things a little differently from most of the others, though unlike the Mongooses and the Wolverines, their shenanigans deftly avoided the fate of the clans that stepped too far out of line, at least up to a point. One of the strengths of Clan Novacat was their merchant and scientist caste, which took advantage of opportunities to swerve a bit when the rest of the clans were dumping all their resources into Omnimech production during the Golden Century. Instead of focusing on Omnimechs, Clan Novacat produced significant and profitable advances in weapons and technology that facilitated the mech programs. Able to trade well with the other clans, the Novacats were able to further their own interests while avoiding grandstanding trials over new Omnimech designs that were seen as wasteful. Why fight when you can trade for what you need? The successful political and economic strategies served the Novacats well through the 29th and 30th centuries. Though not remotely the most powerful or biggest of the clans, they held key influence as discussions in the clan council began to center on the question of a return to the inner sphere. While the Crusader versus Warden factional fight over the true purpose of the clans is well-trodden ground, the role of Clan Novacat had in its ultimate fate is not as well known. The Novacats were devoted crusaders, though the leadership had a very particular scenario in mind. The key component of it was that Novacat should be in control of the invasion itself. Only with a Novacat as IlKhan could an invasion be successful. This mattered a lot to the Novacats and ended up changing history as the early attempts to vote for invasion failed in part due to Clan Novacats holding out. Their connection to the self-styled spirituality and visions provided opportunity for wardens to drag their feet and suggest a scouting force be sent to the inner sphere to collect intelligence on the state of the formerly great houses. As that force, named Wolf's Dragoons, headed off on their fateful journey, time was wasted and the Novacats maneuvered. Their plans were ultimately foiled when the Comstar Explorer vessel Outbound Light arrived in Clan Smoke Jaguar's space, tipping the scales toward invasion and their own leadership. With the strong winds blowing, the Novacats realized they'd have to go in even without the IlKhan ship. Though Clan Novacat would earn a place in Operation Revival, it would not be at the spear's tip. Now before we get ahead of ourselves, the Jenner 2C enters our tale as a result of that Wolf's Dragoon scouting mission turned traitorous backstab. Never trust a wolf, ladies and gentlemen. Some of that Asorla claimed by the Dragoons made its way back to the clan homeworlds for study. This included the noble Jenner, which was quickly claimed by the Novacats who saw its potential. Even though the clan's leadership believed any invasion without them at the lead was probably going to fail, it didn't mean they wouldn't give it their all. After pulling the sample Jenners apart and learning what there was to learn from the Inner Sphere design, the Novacat scientist cast members got to work to create an upgraded clan version of the BattleMech. The Jenner 2C hit production in 3042, just before it would join the Tumans of the invading clans on their blitzkrieg campaign into the Inner Sphere. Cadet Susan pushed her Jenner 2C through the dark forest, moving at a steady 10 kilometers per hour. 10 kph was crawling for a light mech, but it was fast for a passage through the woodland where stout blackheart trees crowded together, barring her way. The ground trembled under her 35-ton mech. Homer's gravity was 40% higher than Terran's standard, and that terrible vibration echoed in her bones. As she pushed through the forest, she felt branches with their dark load of purple-black needles brush against the flattened hemisphere of the BattleMech's forward-thrust head. Jaguar's Leap by Reed Bishop. The name of the game for the Jenner 2C was Speed, and plenty of it. The Type D SA-modified endosteel core for the mech was wrapped around a Series 5 315 extra light fusion engine, which could propel the 35-ton BattleMech to a top speed of 151 km per hour on open terrain. To bolster its agility, 7 jump jets were spread across the legs and torso locations, which allowed for leaps on vented plasma of up to 210 meters. This 9-14-7 movement profile ended up being one of the 2 primary draws for the Jenner 2C once the first production runs stomped off the Novacat assembly lines. The other major selling point was the weapons loadout, which consisted of 2 Pattern J7 short-range missile 6 racks split between the arms and a Streak short-range missile 4 rack set into the center torso, which, due to the curiously predatory placement of the cockpit, was actually above the Mechwarrior in real space. Each of the SRM launchers had its own ton of ammunition from which to feed, which allowed the Jenner 2C to operate as long as possible before shuffling the mortal coil due to a stray ERPPC shot or Gauss rifle round. Unfortunately, regulars to the channel can likely point out that opportunity cost spares no one, so something had to give. For our Jenner 2C, the price was paid in paper-thin armor. Just 3.5 tons of Epsilon Compound 31 ferrofibrous armor provided a paltry 67 points of protection. For comparison to the nearest clan Omnimech, the Puma carried almost twice as much ferrofibrous armor at 6 tons. For comparable Inner Sphere machines, the FS-9S Firestarter carried 5.5 tons of standard plate, and the PNT-10K Panther carried 6.5 tons. To be fair, this was 4 points of armor more than the JR-7K Jenner that the Caretans were running at the start of the clan invasion. You know what they say, you don't have to be the fastest gazelle on the savannah, but you do have to be slightly faster than the slowest one. With 10 double heat sinks, the Jenner 2C didn't have any heat buildup to worry about, even if leaping the full jump jet distance and alpha striking. This placed the mech even more firmly into the useful category for those who wanted to take advantage of rapid strikes on a target before making a hasty retreat. Both the left and right torso were given case to protect the center torso from exploding SRM ammunition. In fact, all of the Jenner 2C variants carry case anytime there is explosive ammunition or lasers. What the Mechwarrior assigned to the Jenner 2C could expect is a fast and agile machine that could potentially hit quite hard while hopefully avoiding return fire. It's no surprise that this thing was a hit with the aggressive Crusader clans. 4 Streak short-range missiles from one of her battlemechs tore into the accursed Falcon IIC, which had been harassing her, spraying sparks where the projectiles splattered into their prey. It was Sergeant Major Holland's Jenner 2C, so badly burned that she could only make out bits of the light blue streaks of its paint job that had fired at the troublesome IIC. Claire was about to join in and help, but the IIC unleashed everything it had at the battered Jenner. Its micro-pulse lasers, pink bursts of energy, blasted the right leg, while its advanced tactical missiles and emerald pulse lasers hit the other leg. Both legs of the squat Jenner 2C disappeared in a spray of dust and explosions. It fell forward, hard, skidding slightly as it fell. Without legs, it was of no use to her anymore. No Substitute for Victory by Blaine Lee Pardoe. Sure enough, the Jenner 2C was popular among the invading clans of Operation Revival. Clan Novacat's reserve status made it all the easier to trade the battle mech to the other clans for what the cats needed. By the time the unfortunate early Inner Sphere defenders witnessed the might of the clan war machine, it was difficult to sort out which clan could lay claim to this reinvented Jenner. The visual similarities with the original Inner Sphere battle mech confused Intel agents who looked at the timeline and doubted that many, if any, Jenner prototypes left in the Exodus. It wasn't until later on that the Wolf's Dragoons connection was made. Initial intel briefings suggested that Clan Novacat was the most likely source of the 2C, as they were the only clan that was seen fielding captured Inner Sphere Jenners in reserve and garrison units. Though officially a second-line battle mech much like the other 2Cs, the Jenner 2C was sometimes spotted among clan assault units. More than a few times, battle ROM footage showed the speedy mech leaping out of recently landed clan dropships to chase down scouting units and ferret out defenders in the vicinity, while the larger mechs made their more ponderous exit. Surprisingly, there weren't any Jenner 2Cs noted at the trials on Tukiad in 3052, even though the participating clans had plenty of them. Perhaps this was an Intel oversight, or the focus on frontline Omnimechs resulted in more of the 2Cs taking a backseat or being left out entirely. After the first pass, the two mechs lined up for another. As they neared, the Incubus turned heavily, firing multiple laser blasts in the hope of bracketing the Jenner 2C enough to catch it off guard. The pilot, as though sensing the move, once more ignited jump jets and leapt into the air, fires sweeping into the grass as the ignited waste plasma lofted the 35-ton battlemech into a harsh ballistic arc. The pilot expertly feathered the jets in the air, twisting its orientation toward the back of the Incubus as it sped by its position. Deep Currents, Empire Alone by Randall N. Bills. Though they were relegated to reserve status during the initial waves of Operation Revival, Clan Novacat was prepared when finally called into action. 3 galaxies were included in the bid, and the clan's leadership was determined to learn from mistakes made by the other clans in their fights against the forces of the Inner Sphere. After studying many hours of battle ROM footage, the Novacats adopted a unique deployment style for their galaxies that would prevent competition and to provide an opportunity for Beta Galaxy to operate with a loose support role. Beta would also take advantage of opportunities to nab resources, systems, and even planets. Even those planets claimed by Clan Smoke Jaguar should the opportunity arise. Before the second invasion fleet left the Stranomechty system, IlKhan Kerensky addressed the warriors of the 7 clans with a stern warning that they would be facing a determined foe who would be much better prepared to face the clan war machine. Some of the clans did better at absorbing this advice than others. Clan Novacat fared well, quickly claiming worlds ceded to them in the invasion corridor by Clan Smoke Jaguar, while also identifying potential new targets in Cretan space. One of those systems quickly marked was IIC. Located deep within Draconis Combine territory, just a couple of jumps away from Luthien, IIC was an important industrial center for House Eadeh. Lexatech Industries, along with many other companies, operated from within the system, and claiming it would allow the Novacats to damage the Combine, while hopefully turning that industrial might into reinforcing their clan's Tumen. When the Novacat Beta Galaxy jumped into the IIC system, a Bachal was quickly transmitted, demanding to know what forces the defenders planned to resist their might. That responsibility fell onto the 18th Dieron regulars, who promptly responded that they would defend the planet with everything they had. Galaxy Commander Rossi quickly assumed that the Combine defenders would behave in an underhanded manner, and refused to allow any bidding to take place in the assault. The entire Beta Galaxy would deploy to make sure IIC was captured. See, they can learn. The call was made to avoid industrial centers, which benefited the goals of both the attackers and the defenders. Still, much of the fighting took place in urban and other close-quarters conditions, which benefited the defenders, who hastily set up reinforced positions and ranged artillery for strikes against likely points of clan advance. Any assumption of fighting under the rules of Zelbriggen was quickly abandoned, as the Novacats found themselves in a desperate multi-day slugfest with the 18th Dierun regulars who made the clanners pay for every meter of ground taken. Losses on both sides were significant, and by the 4th day of fighting, Galaxy Commander Rossi resorted to sending out a star of headhunter elementals to try to take out the Dierun leadership. The plan was foiled by a local native creature which squawked and alerted the 18th's command of the clanners' presence in the area. The 18th carried out their own headhunting mission using Dest commandos from the 412th Company. This proved to be much more successful as the Galaxy Commander was killed and the Novacat command unit destroyed. 20 battlemechs were disabled before the Dest commandos were finally wiped out by Clan Novacat reinforcements. Following that debacle, the Novacats shifted strategy on IIC away from direct confrontation and toward raids that weakened the 18th Dierun's ability to keep positions reinforced and supplied. An assault against a factory complex triggered a prepared artillery strike against the clan Trinary, which then also resulted in an aerospace strike against the artillery, which further degraded the defenders' ability to continue the fight. A final stand took place at the Lexatech land-air mech factory, which was rigged with explosives to prevent it from falling into the attackers' hands, but the swiftness of the collapse resulted in only minor damage to the site. IIC fell to the Novacats, and though it had caused significant casualties to Beta Galaxy, the clan now had a planet deep within enemy territory which could be used to supply future operations. One of the factories that received retooling was devoted to producing the new Jenner 2Cs. In the hazy, smoke-filled distance, beyond the slow-moving Vindicator, Nico witnessed the Federated Commonwealth assassin's vibrant pulse laser shear off the right leg of Mechwarrior Xenia's Jenner 2C at the knee. The falling, saucer-shaped torso plowed a furrow into the dirt, and the entire right-hand side of the battlemech erupted into a fireball when the falling impact crushed and detonated one of the short-range missile magazines. The fire-blackened mech shuddered in frustration. But Xenia would not be getting it upright anytime soon, not with half of the Jenner reduced to wreckage. Horn and Fang, Slacktide Battlecore Anthology by Philip A. Lee. There have been 4 official variants for the Jenner 2C across the timeline, and each has its own charm. The first of the variants hit the scene in 3044, just 2 years after the original. The Jenner 2C's only structural change was the addition of 2 more jump jets, pushing the movement profile to 914-9. This boost in agility was paid for with a reduced weapons loadout of just 7 tons. The 2C2's role was shifted from a close-up hunter of soft things to a long-range skirmisher thanks to the installation of an ER large laser in the right arm, along with a long-range missile 5 rack in the center torso. For close-range squabbling, a small pulse laser in the left arm nub offered its accurate if modest damage. While this loadout dropped the blunt force offensive power significantly, the combination of longer-range weaponry and high mobility could easily result in the 2C2's Mechwarrior living much longer in a fight, and ultimately being able to do more damage to an enemy over the long run. 4 years after that, a third bite at the apple resulted in the Jenner 2C3, which leaned in another direction, pushing the mech into a much more devoted scout and spotter loadout. The movement profile returned to a 914-7, but the equipment mass was devoted largely to a NARC missile beacon launcher set into the center torso and fed from 2 tons of right torso NARC pods. The only offensive weaponry consisted of 4 small pulse lasers split between the arms. Much like the previous variant, the 2C3 sacrificed immediate offensive power to fit a more niche role. The 2C3's job was to find the right moment to sneak close, slap on a few NARC pods here and there to juicy targets, and get out. The small pulse lasers could be quite effective at soft targets or other light battlemechs who might want to stop your plan. Heat generation isn't an issue, and with 12 NARC beacons, if you're running out of ammunition, you probably did your job and then some. If you were looking for a scouting clan mech with a NARC launcher, you could do far worse than the Jenner 2C3. Both the Jenner 2C2 and 2C3 were largely only fielded by Clan Novacat mech warriors. For our next variant, there is a big leap down the timeline to 3061 with the Jenner 2C4. Unlike the previous 2 variants, the 2C4 underwent an entirely cosmetic shift in armor plating. It remained at 3.5 tons of ferrofibrous, but as you can see, it is, well, it's different. As far as hardware goes, it's the same mech as the original except for a part of the weapons loadout. The original Streak SRM-4 in the center torso made a return with its 1 ton of ammunition in the right torso, which is fun. The 2 new additions were a pair of advanced tactical missile 3 launchers split between the arms, each given just 1 ton of ammunition apiece. While in theory this would match the damage output of the original Jenner 2C if using the ATM's close-range high-explosive ammunition, it could also be loaded up with other types for a more flexible range of mission profiles. So yes, it's technically better than the original in that it makes the mech more overall useful. It still hurts a little to see the ATM without at least 2 tons of ammunition with which to play. Of course, you could always just split it 1 ton in one launcher and 1 ton in another, but eh. Susan stepped forward to rip into Jackson's right side, trying to tear his attention away from the mist links. Her Jenner 2C had a Streak SRM-4 rack behind and above the half-dome of her fuselage. The whole assembly rode on a superstructure mounted on a pair of chicken legs. Outboard of the legs' hip joints, a pair of SRM-6 racks were mounted. The Jenner was an odd-looking mech, but it packed a healthy punch, and it was fast as the devil. But not when it was standing in 5 meters of water. She tore into Jackson with her missiles. It seemed she had adjusted for her targeting problems. Warheads smashed into the stone rhino's right side, shattering armor that fell like hail into the yellow lake. Jaguar's Leap by Reed Bishop. The most recent variant of the Jenner 2C is one that was first produced by the Novacats but then by Clan Seafox. IIC was eventually reclaimed by the Draconis Combine in 3063, and the production facilities there were maintained in a deal worked out later with the Seafoxes. Many of the Jenner 2Cs were sold off to Clan Wolf, which was fond of the design, along with basically everybody else. Thus, the mech survived the obliteration of Clan Novacat, and production has continued up into the IlKlan era. The latest version of the mech was designated the Jenner 2C5, and it carries a few new bells and whistles that are worth covering. The Jenner 2C5's hardware remained unchanged except for an 11th double heatsink. The original 9.14.7 movement profile was untouched. The weapons and equipment loadout was a nod to the original close-range Menace mission profile, featuring 4 medium improved heavy lasers split between the arms and an SRM-6 set into the center torso. Oh, and a light active probe was set into the left torso. As with the previous variants that needed it, case was added to protect the mech from exploding heavy lasers and that SRM-6 ammunition. The 2C5 can be very powerful, but much like its inspiring Inner Sphere cousin, heat generation can be somewhat challenging. Firing everything at a target while on the run could do a potential 52 damage, which is very nice for a 35-ton battle mech, but the resulting 34 generated heat left the 2C5 at 12 heat into the red. Which might not seem terrible, but remember the light battle mechs need to keep moving very fast to stay alive. At least in universe, that's a problem. On the tabletop, the movement profile the following turn drops to 12 from 14, which doesn't change the return fire math, as movement between 10 and 17 hexes all has that +4 modifier to hit. The penalty is instead found in the slightly reduced movement speed and targeting should a second shot be necessary. Overall, the 2C5 is a nasty little machine that feels closer to the original Jenner than the original variant does. It's fast, leaps a good distance, and can leave you wishing you wore your bathing suit into the cockpit. Available intel on this newest Jenner 2C is positive thanks to the machine being used extensively by the Combine and sold to just about everyone thanks to Clan Seafox. If the trend continues, I would expect the Jenner 2C will end up being one of the most commonly fielded Clan Tech battle mechs well into the IlKlan era. Now before we wrap things up, I did want to take a crack at creating my very own Jenner 2C variant, obviously unofficial and non-canon. I designated it the Jenner 2C MF. I looked around for a new angle and hopefully it's worth taking out for a spin. Shall we dive in? The hardware for the Jenner 2C MF is stock except for the addition of a partial wing, which pushes the movement profile to 9.14.11. That's right, this Jenner is going airborne. Once it closes in on its prey, which won't take very long, 6 micro-pulse lasers can chew through the armor of light and even medium mechs pretty quickly. Their accurate fire was bolstered by the addition of a Streak SRM-2 launcher in the center torso, fed by 1 ton of case-protected ammunition in the right torso. While the overall damage potential is modest, no one wants to be shot at with 6 micro-pulse lasers by a 35-ton machine that looks like it just might be capable of flight if the wind is just right. Heat isn't an issue, especially with the partial wing's additional -3 when used. If you'd like to give the Jenner 2C MF a try, I've included the record sheet for it along with the Alpha Strike card in the video notes below. I think this will be a fun one. Let me know how it does. So why do we love the Jenner 2C? Well, if you've seen the original 3050 TRO art, that might be enough to explain it right there. If you need more, the fact that it's just a nasty little bugger that can hit pretty hard and be hard to hit in return should push us over the top. The Jenner 2C is fragile but powerful, and there's a lot to enjoy if you're willing to accept that kind of risk. But I'm curious what you think. Is this a mech worthy of its name, or does it stray too far from what the original Jenner brought to the table? Do you have a variant that you go to again and again? Let me know in the comments and we can keep the discussion going. Thanks as always for coming out today. If you think the video deserves it and you want to show your support, the easiest way to do that is to hit the like button, subscribe, and even leave a comment. All of these things make the YouTube algorithm happy, and it's awesome when new people discover the channel. If you want to go one step further, direct support through Ko-fi or YouTube channel memberships are a great way to help ensure the nonsense keeps flowing. Just a couple of bucks a month can make a big difference collectively. I can't do all this without you, and I appreciate it. If you would like to join the nonsense on the MechFrog Discord channel, we'd love to see you. I've included a link to the server in the video notes. It's the best way to find out what's coming next week, talk to BattleTech fans, share your awesome mech paint jobs, and otherwise hang out with some pretty awesome people. With that, I'll say have a great week, take care of yourself and others, and please go out and make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.